Yes friends, now let us look at certain amendments of the charging section. So there are changes that has been brought under the charging section of the GST Act. Now mainly we understand that for IGST Act, because this amendment which we are talking about is with regard to IGST Act. Now when I say IGST Act, basically it relates to the place of supply provisions. So location of supplier and place of supply, if both are there in same state, we will consider that as CGST, SGST, and if location of supplier and place of supply are in different state, we will consider that as IGST. Now let us look at that particular point. So as per section 8 of the IGST Act, here they have given reference of supply of goods. So subject to provisions of section 10 basically talks about the place of supply and other issues. Now it says supply of goods where the location, so it is basically for supply of goods. So supply of goods where the location of supplier and the place of supply both are there in same state, it is considered as intra-state transaction, and for which CGST and SGST will be charged. Again I am saying subject to provisions of section 10, where supply of goods in which the location of supplier and the place of supply both are located in same state or even same union territory, we will consider that as intra-state or intra-union territory transaction, for which CGST and SGST will be charged. However, there is a proviso which says provided in some cases it will always be considered as interstate transaction, like supply of goods to SEZ or such other likewise transactions. Now that is not actually the place where amendment is. Let us look at the subsequent provision. In subsequent provision we talk about supply of services, almost same criteria. It says subject to provisions of section 12, where supply of services, so in which we talk about, section 10 was referring to supply of goods component and section 12 is referring to supply of services component. It very clearly says subject to provisions of section 12, supply of services where the location of the supplier and the place of supply both are there in same state or same union territory, this is considered as intrastate supply, for which CGST and SGST will be charged. Again a kind of same proviso which says that intrastate supply of services shall not include supply of services to or by an SEZ developer or an SEZ unit. Again I am saying this is where actually a clarification or an amendment has been brought. The intrastate supply, above provision says that this will be called as intrastate supply. However, this says intrastate supply shall not include supply of services to an SEZ developer or an SEZ unit, or supply of services by an SEZ developer or an SEZ unit. This will not be considered as intrastate, rather it will be considered as interstate transaction. So for example, like if I say I am in Gujarat and I am having some office in Gujarat, and there is one SEZ which is part and parcel of Gujarat. So practically speaking, if I provide as a CA or by whatever mean, if I provide services to that unit in Gujarat, then as per this provision it is called as intrastate supply because it is in same state. However, proviso says that when such services are provided to any SEZ developer or any unit located in SEZ, then that shall not be considered as interstate, that shall not be considered as intrastate, rather it should be considered as interstate. Now this is the particular thing that we need to keep in mind. Now let us move a step ahead with this. Why a clarification was required in that regard, that is important. So let us talk about that why a clarification has been actually brought. So let us look at this particular situation where the clarification was actually required. This says very clearly services of short-term accommodation or conferencing or banqueting etc. provided to an SEZ developer or an SEZ unit, whether to be treated as an interstate supply or shall be treated as an intrastate supply. Now why this kind of issue comes in? So let us say accommodation services are provided to an SEZ developer. So let us say there is a location in Gujarat where a hotel has been located, and that hotel is providing services by way of accommodation to an individual. Then in that case, hotel's location will be considered as location of supplier, and more important, the hotel's location will be considered as place of supply. And since hotel's location and the place of supply both, that is location of supplier and place of supply, are in same state, we will consider that as an intrastate supply, and accordingly GST will be charged. Now the important aspect of that is, let us say a hotel is located in one state and is providing, in Gujarat, in Ahmedabad somewhere, and is providing services to an SEZ developer. Now when they are providing services to an SEZ developer, the important aspect is, if you follow the provision of accommodation services, which is related to an immovable property, this says the location of supplier shall be the hotel location and the place of supply shall also be the hotel location. That is the exact provision of section 12, subsection 3, clause C, which very clearly says where a service has been provided in relation to an immovable property. I think accommodation services is always in relation to an immovable property. So for that aspect, the location of supplier would be obviously that state and place of supply would obviously that state. So accordingly it should be a matter of CGST and SGST. So actually speaking, 2 points are conflicting, because if you follow 12(3)(c), it says कि होटल का ही लोकेशन ऑफ सप्लायर है एंड होटल का ही लोकेशन प्लेस ऑफ सप्लाई है, सो इट शुड बी इंट्रास्टेट एंड अकॉर्डिंगली CGST and SGST should be charged. Now if you ignore that point and if you follow the proviso which we were discussing under section 8, that proviso very clearly mention is that any services provided to an SEZ developer or an SEZ unit by default will not be considered as an intrastate supply, rather it will be considered as an interstate supply. So if you go for a proviso, then because it is a service provided to a SEZ developer, it should be called as an interstate. But if you go for section 12(3)(c), which very clearly says that the location of supplier and place of supply both are in same state and accordingly it should be intrastate and accordingly CGST, SGST should be charged. So now which one has to be considered? The proviso given under section 8 or the 12(3)(c), basically which one has to be considered? So that is where a clarification has been brought on 14 June 2018, a very clear clarification which says that for this particular transaction the specific provision will overrule the general. Which is a specific provision? So services provided to an SEZ developer becomes a specific provision which will override the services with regard to location of an immovable property, and accordingly what will happen is the proviso will overrule. So meaning thereby when an accommodation services or conferencing services or banqueting services, which are obviously in relation to an immovable property, but when are provided to an SEZ developer, it will have an overriding effect over the normal provision, and accordingly it will not be considered as an intrastate supply even if located in same state, rather it will be considered as an interstate supply because of the proviso impact that says specific provision will obviously overrule the general provision. So I think everybody understands this particular amendment. This is purely with regard to the point of which tax should be charged according to the type of transaction which is relevant. Whether it should be considered as an intrastate transaction or it should be considered as an interstate transaction, and accordingly actually the tax liability should take place. So I think everybody understands this, okay? Accommodation services or conferencing services or banqueting services which are provided to a developer of an SEZ or to a unit located in SEZ, though it is in same state, though the property is located in that state, location of supplier and place of supply both are located in same state, still it will have an overriding effect and it will not be considered as an intrastate supply, rather it will be considered as interstate supply. So I think everybody is clear with the particular clarification. As I said, it is a clarification brought with effect from 14 June 2018. It is through a circular number 48/22/2018 and dated 14 June 2018. I think everybody understands this particular amendment, or rather I would say clarification or a circular. Let us move ahead with this, friends. There is one more circular which is with regard to territorial waters. So transactions that are taking place in territorial waters. So this very clearly says that whenever the location of the supplier is in territorial waters or the place of supply is in territorial waters, how do we decide the applicability of the tax? ऑब्वियस है, फॉर एग्जाम्पल अगर मान लो कि गुजरात से 12 नॉटिकल माइल का एरिया है, आई मीन लाइक गुजरात इंडिया में कहीं से भी आप 12 नॉटिकल माइल तक का एरिया गिनो तो दैट इज कंसिडर्ड एज टेरिटोरियल वाटर्स. नाउ द इंपॉर्टेंट एस्पेक्ट इज व्हेन आई से अगर सप्लायर का लोकेशन उस टेरिटोरियल वाटर्स में है, So for example, मान लीजिए कि supplier is located in that 12 territorial waters and is providing services to someone in Gujarat, then how do you identify the applicability of the tax? Because place of supply तो गुजरात हो गया, but ये जो territorial waters है उसको आप क्या बोलोगे? गुजरात बोलोगे? Because अगर उसको गुजरात बोलोगे तो then it should be same state and accordingly CGST and SGST should be applied. और अगर आप उसको अदर देन गुजरात बोलोगे, then in that case it is outside Gujarat and someone is providing services to someone in Gujarat, so it should be IGST Act. So this is very important. Let's go for a vice versa. Let us say the supplier is having a location in Gujarat and the place of supply is somewhere in Indian territorial waters. So now in that case, now if you say that territorial waters is also part of the Gujarat, then in that case the location of supplier and the place of supply both will be called as Gujarat, and accordingly the CGST and SGST will be charged. But if I say location of supplier is Gujarat and the place of supply is outside Gujarat, then in that case it is IGST applicability. So that is where this particular clarification comes in, which very clearly mention as notwithstanding anything contained in this act. Very clearly, notwithstanding anything contained in this act, it says where the location of the supplier is in Indian territorial waters, or the second perspective is where the place of supply is in Indian territorial waters, then the location of supplier or the place of supply shall be the nearest coastal state or the nearest union territory where the appropriate baseline is located. So for example, if I say Gujarat se 12 nautical mile ke andar wo hai, then it should be considered as part and parcel of Gujarat. मीनिंग देयर बाय अगर लोकेशन ऑफ सप्लायर उस टेरिटोरियल वाटर्स में है जो गुजरात से 12 नॉटिकल माइल के अंदर है तो उसे गुजरात का ही पोर्शन माना जाएगा. सिमिलर वे अगर प्लेस ऑफ सप्लाई उस 12 नॉटिकल माइल के अंदर है जो गुजरात से 12 नॉटिकल माइल की लिमिट में कवर होती है, देन इन दैट केस प्लेस ऑफ सप्लाई विल आल्सो बी कंसिडर्ड एज गुजरात. सो द इंपॉर्टेंट पर्सपेक्टिव इज दैट अगर मैं IGST या CGST SGST की एप्लीकेबिलिटी डिसाइड कर रहा हूं, यानी मैं इंट्रा स्टेट या इंटर स्टेट की एप्लीकेबिलिटी डिसाइड कर रहा हूं, तो उसके लिए मुझे अगर टेरिटोरियल वाटर्स में लोकेशन ऑफ सप्लायर आता हो या प्लेस ऑफ सप्लाई आता हो तो उसे उस रिस्पेक्टिव स्टेट जिसके नियरेस्ट बाउंड्री में वो कवर होता है उसी के अंदर आइडेंटिफाई करना है. अगर गुजरात से 12 नॉटिकल माइल्स के अंदर है तो गुजरात में गिनना है, अगर महाराष्ट्र से 12 नॉटिकल माइल के अंदर है तो महाराष्ट्र में गिनना है, एंड अकॉर्डिंगली आई नीड टू डिसाइड लोकेशन ऑफ सप्लायर और प्लेस ऑफ सप्लाई. सो आई थिंक एवरीबडी अंडरस्टैंड दिस पर्टिकुलर पर्सपेक्टिव कि अगर मान लो कि लोकेशन ऑफ सप्लायर गुजरात है और 12 नॉटिकल माइल गुजरात में कवर हो, ऐसी जगह पे प्लेस ऑफ सप्लाई आ रहा है तो इट शुड बी इंट्रा स्टेट, और अगर 12 नॉटिकल माइल महाराष्ट्र में कवर हो, ऐसी जगह में अगर प्लेस ऑफ सप्लाई आ रहा है तो गुजरात इज लोकेशन ऑफ सप्लायर एंड प्लेस ऑफ सप्लाई इज महाराष्ट्र, सो अकॉर्डिंगली इट शुड बी IGST. So I think everybody understand this particular point with regard to charging section. Let us look at the subsequent points, friends. Yes, friends, let us talk about one more change with regard to the charging section. I am directly referring section 9 of CGST Act, the main charging provision, or section 5 of IGST Act. I think everyone is aware that section 9(1) mainly talks about supply, GST is applicable on supply of all goods and services, or both, except, at a rate not exceeding 20% for CGST, 20% for SGST and 40% for IGST, excluding the alcoholic liquor for human consumption. Then that is 9(1). 9(2) basically talks about the petroleum products on which the GST should be charged from a date notified by central government. Petroleum products would obviously cover 5 products: petrol, diesel, aviation turbine fuel, natural gas, and what we considered as crude oil. So ये 5 प्रोडक्ट के ऊपर गवर्नमेंट नोटिफाई करेगा, उसके हिसाब से कंसिडर करेंगे. Then we talk about 9(3), 9(4) and 9(5). When I say 9(3), it basically relates to compulsory RCM, where we talk about the specified supplies on which the tax is always payable under RCM, where we have goods and we have services. As we are aware that goods list is not part and parcel of the syllabus, so we don't have to refer that. अभी आपने आगे के सेशन में देखा होगा, गाइडलाइंस में मैंने बोला भी था कि गाइडलाइन बहुत क्लियर है कि जो कंपलसरी RCM है वो हमें गुड्स के लिए फॉलो नहीं करना है, बट ये सर्विसेज वाला कंपलसरी RCM हमें फॉलो करना है अंडर सेक्शन 9(3). इनफैक्ट उसके अंदर 2-3 अमेंडमेंट्स भी है, तो वी विल कवर अप दैट. आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट नाउ नेक्स्ट एज 9(4). So when I say 9(4), so 9(4) is applicable when the supplier is unregistered and the recipient is registered. So when I say supplier is unregistered and the recipient is registered, so मान लो कि supplier 100 रुपए का goods देता है, उसके ऊपर 18% का GST है. So अगर वो मेरे से 118 चार्ज कर लेगा और मैं उसको 118 दे भी दूंगा, बट वो तो अनरजिस्टर्ड है, वो 18 रुपीज गवर्नमेंट को कैसे देने जाएगा? इनफैक्ट हाउ गवर्नमेंट विल रिकवर दैट 18 रुपीज फ्रॉम हिम? So the easy way of collection is not a supplier, the easy way of collection is recipient, and that is where we refer the provision of RCM. Where supplier is unregistered and the recipient is registered, so the source of collection is not the supplier, the source to collect tax is recipient, that is covered under reverse charge mechanism. तो ये 9(4) वाला RCM है. इनफैक्ट जो अमेंडमेंट मैं आपको कवर करवा रहा हूँ वो इसी के रिगार्डिंग है. जब ओरिजिनली 9(4) का RCM आया था तो उसमें एक लिमिट भी डाला गया था 5,000 पर डे का, which later on got withdrawn because on 1st July 2017 when they brought an RCM, they said that unregistered supplier अगर registered recipient को goods और services दे रहा है तो yes it is liable for tax under RCM only if per day amount from unregistered to registered is more than 5,000 rupees. If it is less than 5,000 rupees तो उसके ऊपर RCM का प्रोविजन एप्लीकेबल नहीं होगा. ये 1st जुलाई 2017 से जब लॉ इंट्रोड्यूस हुआ था तब का प्रोविजन था. Later on, from 13th October 2017, government has withdrawn this provision, saying that unregistered person providing goods or services to registered person, then it is not liable for tax under RCM. Initially, they've withdrawn it for a shorter period, then back to back, that date is getting continuously extended, and one of the recent provision very clearly says that this date is extended up to 30th September 2019. So till 30th September 2019, if your supplier is unregistered and your recipient is registered, then irrespective of the per day amount, it is not liable for tax under RCM. I am talking about which category? I am talking about section 9 subsection 4. And ये जो 9(4) है, that is of CGST Act. On a parallel basis, there is IGST Act also, and in which there is a section 5(4). Is exactly same, where supplier is unregistered and recipient is registered, and again it is liable for tax under RCM. But 9(4) और 5(4) दोनों में एक corresponding change आ गया है, common दोनों को cover करते हुए, which very clearly says that 9(4) of CGST Act, where taxable supplies by an unregistered person to a registered person are covered. Similar provisions are contained in 5(4) also. So 9(4) and 5(4) both are talking about the same, where supplier is unregistered and recipient is registered, but it is liable for tax under RCM. That provision stands withdrawn till 30th September 2019. So अगर by chance आपको एग्जाम में कोई क्वेश्चन आ जाए जहाँ पे सप्लायर अनरजिस्टर्ड है और रेसिपिएंट रजिस्टर्ड है, so whether it is liable for tax or not, obviously it is not liable for tax even if the amount is more than 5,000 per day, क्योंकि उसके ऊपर टैक्स लगाने का कोई प्रोविजन लीगली ड्राफ्ट हुआ नहीं है. सो वी शैड ऑलवेज कंसिडर दैट एज एग्जम्प्ट, उसके ऊपर कोई टैक्स अप्लाई नहीं होगा. सो आई थिंक एवरीबडी अंडरस्टैंड दिस पर्टिकुलर प्रोविजन विच वी आर रेफरिंग टू. सो ये सेक्शन 9(4) के रिगार्डिंग और सेक्शन 5(4) के रिगार्डिंग, 9(4) ऑफ CGST एक्ट एंड 5(4) ऑफ IGST एक्ट, दोनों के अंदर ये कॉरस्पॉन्डिंग अमेंडमेंट है कि अनरजिस्टर्ड टू रजिस्टर्ड वाला RCM बंद रहेगा. इट इज नॉट एप्लीकेबल टिल 30th September 2019. Let us move ahead with this, friends. Further, this is actually compulsory RCM list. I am talking about section 9 subsection 3 where we talk about compulsory RCM. ये बेसिकली एक नोटिफिकेशन से गवर्न होता है which was issued on 28 June 2017, notification number 13/2017. So basically it is this notification actually provides goods or services, I mean rather I would say services, because goods वाला list तो हमारे लिए syllabus में है ही नहीं. So compulsory RCM का जो provision है where they talk about services, where supplier of service is providing services to a recipient which is liable for tax under RCM, in and all इस नोटिफिकेशन में 11 सर्विसेज है और यही 11 में से एक्चुअली 2 तो अमेंडेड है, नए हैं. ओरिजिनल नोटिफिकेशन में तो 9 सर्विसेज थी और बाद में उसको 2 सर्विसेज ऐड करके 11 सर्विसेज बनाई गई है. नाउ लेट अस टॉक अबाउट दोज चेंजेस. So one of the amendment has been brought under entry number 5, which is related to the government services. So government जो services provide कर रहा है उसके लिए एक entry 5 है और उसी 5 के पैरेलल बेसिस पे एक 5A नंबर की एंट्री न्यू क्रिएट की गई है और जिसके लिए अमेंडमेंट एप्लीकेबल है. इनफैक्ट ये अमेंडमेंट नवंबर 18 में भी ऑलरेडी अप्लाई हो चुका है, बट फॉर द पर्पस ऑफ क्लैरिटी वी विल डिस्कस दैट बिकॉज इट इज़ वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट. आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट गवर्नमेंट बेस्ड सर्विसेज जिसके लिए ओरिजिनल एंट्री था एंट्री नंबर 5 एंड दे हैव ब्रॉट इन अ न्यू एंट्री विच इज एंट्री नंबर 5A. So we have to discuss entry 5 as well as 5A. More important, there are amendments with regard to two more entries which have been actually added at a completely later stage. That is entry number 10 and entry number 11. And both of them are applicable for your exam May 19. In fact, entry number 10 है वो November 18 में भी apply हो चुका है. But entry number 11 है वो तो purely May 19 के लिए ही बनाया गया है. So let us talk about entry number 10 and entry number 11. When I say entry number 10, friends, it very clearly says that services provided by the members of overseeing committee to RBI. So there is something called an overseeing committee which has been created by RBI, and there are members who are appointed. They are basically independent and they are experts of the financial industry. So these members provide services to RBI, and in relation to which the tax is liable under RCM. Now basically what is an actual logic behind this? So let us talk about that, friends, everyone. When I say services provided by the members of overseeing committee to RBI, so why there is an overseeing committee? So it is basically in relation to the IBC, which is what we call as Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code. So when I say Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code, I think everyone is aware that the companies, organizations who obtain loans from the financial institutions and are not in a position to repay that, so obviously for the purpose of recovery, banks will apply all the possible provisions. And if at a later stage they believe that recovery is somehow not possible, then they will refer a case under the IBC, which is called as Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code. Now, the relevant provision with regard to that is कि जब कोई भी बैंक को ये लगता है कि कोई पार्टी जिसने लोन लिया हुआ है वो रीपे करने की पोजीशन में नहीं है, तो straight away bank will not take up the matter under IBC. Rather, what will happen is bank will report that matter to the RBI. So RBI will hear all type of problems from the respective banks. Now what RBI does is, RBI has hired a committee called Overseeing Committee. So RBI will straight away refer these cases to the Overseeing Committee. The members of the Overseeing Committee will consider all the possible ways by which the money can be recovered, or whether the case should be referred under the IBC, or it is possible to recover the amount in some other manner also. So basically RBI will refer the cases to the members of the overseeing committee, and based on their understanding of the concept, based on their financial knowledge, they will provide the advice to the RBI that what should happen in this particular case. And based on the opinion of the members, RBI will later on take the decision whether to refer a case under IBC or not. Now the important part is, when member provides services to RBI with regard to insolvency and bankruptcy, obviously RBI pays them some sort of consideration. So that is where actually there is a supply and there is a consideration. Whether it is liable for GST, answer is yes. Now the concern issue is, which is the correct way of collecting this tax? Whether the tax should be collected from member or the tax should be collected from RBI under reverse charge mechanism. So clear clause says that services provided by the members of the overseeing committee to the Reserve Bank of India is liable for tax, but liable for tax under reverse charge mechanism. So this is actually 10th number point, where the services are liable for tax under RCM. I think everyone understands point number 10, where the tax should be paid under RCM. Moving ahead with this 11th entry is altogether a new entry. And again, that relates to banking industry. So, I mean, like as an individual, if you provide services to bank, and if government is supposed to collect the tax from you, then practically it is difficult for them. So the easy way of collection for government is to collect the same tax, not from the public, but not from the individual suppliers. The easy way for the government to collect the tax is to collect it from the recipient, which is bank and NBFC. From there, it is very easy to collect the tax rather than collecting it from the individual suppliers. So for example, it very clearly says that services provided by individual DSAs. What is DSA? DSA is called direct selling agents. Every bank has appointed their own DSAs who helps the banks to get the business. So basically, they are not on the payroll of the bank, but they are on contract with the bank, that they will bring business to bank, and depending on the amount of business that they will bring, bank will give them commission. So DSA जैसे हम लोगों को, हमारे जैसे लोगों को अप्रोच करते हैं और पूछते हैं कि हमारी बैंक है जो बहुत सब्सिडाइज रेट पे या बहुत कम रेट पे लोन प्रोवाइड कर रही है, सो आर यू इंटरेस्टेड इन टेकिंग दैट लोन? सो जब बैंक हमारे पास, जब DSAs हमारे पास आते हैं, हम प्रपोजल्स को समझते हैं और इवेल्युएट करके हम बोलते हैं कि ओके, आई एम रेडी टू टेक द लोन फ्रॉम सो एंड सो बैंक, then DSA will take the matter to the bank and will try and get the loan sanctioned. So can I say DSA brought the business to the bank where they will earn? And because of that, the banks are paying commission to these DSAs. And because banks are paying commission to these DSAs, they are called direct selling agents of the bank. Now, they provide services to bank and bank gives them consideration. So obviously that is liable for GST. So now from which source the tax should be collected? Should it be collected from the DSAs or should it be collected from the banks which are the recipient? So that is where this provision is applicable, that the DSA is under which category, whether he is an individual DSA, so he is a proprietor or something like that, or it's a partnership firm or a company or an LLP. If the DSA is an individual DSA providing services to bank or NBFC, the best way of collection is to collect it from bank and NBFC rather than collecting it from an individual DSA. As compared to that, if I say that a corporate DSA, for example, a company or a partnership firm or an LLP, which has obtained a DSA license, if they are providing services to bank, then in that case, obviously from corporates, the tax can be collected by the government. So they have created a clear provision that who provides services to the bank, whether an individual DSAs or a corporate DSA. If it is individual DSA providing services to banks and financial institutions, banks and NBFCs, then let the tax be under RCM. But if a corporate DSA is providing services to a bank and NBFC, then let the tax be under forward charge mechanism. So under which category the DSA is there is a very important perspective. That is where entry number 11 is applicable. So I think everybody understands that entry number 10 and 11, which are newly brought in entry under the RCM notification. Over and above that, as I said, there is already an amendment under entry number 5 and 5A, where we clearly talk about government's services, and in specific we refer to a service of renting of immovable property. So now let us discuss that particular point. Yes friends, now just let us talk about entry 5 and 5A with regard to RCM. Now basically for that we need to understand this particular point, which says that as per exemption notification, there are exemptions when services are provided by government, and it very clearly says that any services provided by government is eligible for exemption except few services, like as they are mentioned over here. Like there is a Department of Post Services where specified services like speed post and express parcel post and life insurance and agency services provided to other than government are liable for tax and liable for tax under forward charge mechanism. Same way, any services in relation to aircraft or vessel, maybe inside or outside the premises or precincts, that is also liable for tax and liable for tax under forward charge mechanism. Moving ahead with that, there is a third category which says that the transportation of goods and transportation of passenger, again services provided by government, that is liable for tax and liable for tax under forward charge mechanism. This is where I am talking about entry of notification 12/2017, to be very precise, entry 6 of notification 12/2017. उसी में fourth entry है which very clearly says that any services other than the above three ABC. So I'm not talking about postal services, I'm not talking about transport services, or I'm also not talking about aircraft or vessel services. So I'm not talking about any of those services, any service other than the ABC. And if they are provided to business entity, then they are liable for tax. So a question comes in as, if any other services are provided to other than business entity, so again entry 6 very clearly says it is eligible for exemption. It is taxable only if they are provided to business entities. Now let us say any other services are provided to business entity, then whether they are liable for tax or not. Okay, they are liable for tax. Though in what manner? Forward charge or reverse charge? So that is where there was a segregation, but that segregation is very important from understanding of the RCM applicability. So let us understand that segregation. That segregation was very clearly saying that if it is renting of immovable property, then the tax should be forward charge mechanism, and if it is other services, then the tax should be reverse charge mechanism. So I am particularly talking about the entry 5 and 5A. Till D point it was entry 6 of exemption notification. I'm talking, see, there are two notifications. One is exemption notification, which is notification number 12/2017. Another is RCM notification, which is notification number 13/2017. Notification 12/2017 provides exemption, and in which there is entry 6 where they talk about A, B, C and D. D point, as per that exemption notification, says any services other than A, B, C above. Any services other than ABC, if provided to business entity, then it is liable for tax. Now, it is liable for tax, but in what manner? So that is where we come to entry 5, which is an old entry, and entry 5A, which is a new entry, which very clearly says कि अगर मान लो कि जो other services है which are given to business entities is in form of renting of immovable property service or other services also. So in other services also there is a bifurcation, renting of immovable property or other. If it is renting of immovable property, let it be forward charge mechanism, and if it is other services, then let it be reverse charge mechanism. So this is the old entry, which is entry 5. Entry 5 very clearly says that this is forward charge, this is forward charge, this is forward charge. In fourth, if it is renting of immovable property, forward charge. If it is other services, it is reverse charge. I am talking about which category? Entry 5. Of which? Exemption notification? No. RCM notification. Now I am referring to entry 5A of RCM notification, which is a new entry, which very clearly says in case of even renting of immovable property, there are bifurcations. So ye compulsory forward charge hata do. Now in renting of immovable property which is provided to business entity, whether the recipient is registered business entity or is an unregistered business entity. If it is registered business entity, it will be covered by reverse charge mechanism. If it is unregistered business entity, it will be covered by forward charge mechanism. So this is the impact that I am referring under entry 5 and 5A. Let us try and understand the practical aspects of the same. Let us say कि मैं बात कर रहा हूँ ये सर्विसेज गवर्नमेंट और लोकल अथॉरिटी दोनों दे तो सेम क्राइटेरिया है. So let us say municipal corporation, which is considered as local authority, is providing town hall on a rent. So we can say is providing town hall on a rent to whom? Let us say to Dhaval Gandhi individual. If I say कि is providing town hall on rent to Dhaval Gandhi individual, then in that case entry D के हिसाब से ये सीधा exempt हो गया. क्यों? Because reason is very clear. It's any other services provided to business entity. I'm sorry, no, it is Dhaval Gandhi individual, so it is not provided to business entity. So if it is not provided to business entity, it is straight away exempt. But let us say it is provided to Navkar Institute. If it is provided to Navkar Institute, yes, we very clearly says that it is provided to business entity. So when the services are provided to business entity, so obviously the point of discussion will be very clear that is it liable for tax or is it not liable for tax. So okay, D number के point के हिसाब से it is liable for tax. Now the important point is what is the method of taxability, forward charge or reverse charge. So if you follow old provision, the renting of immovable property, it is compulsory covered under forward charge mechanism. The revised provision says it actually depends on the status of Navkar Institute. If Navkar Institute is a registered, it's a business entity, but is it registered business entity or unregistered? If Navkar Institute is a registered business entity, so it is liable for tax under RCM. If Navkar Institute is an unregistered business entity, so it is liable for tax under forward charge mechanism. So कल सुबह अगर रेंटिंग ऑफ इमूवेबल प्रॉपर्टी की सर्विस इंडिविजुअल्स को प्रोवाइड की जाए तो वो एग्जेम्प्ट रहेगा. अगर रेंटिंग ऑफ इमूवेबल प्रॉपर्टी की सर्विसेज अदर देन इंडिविजुअल्स को प्रोवाइड की जाए यानी बिजनेसेस को प्रोवाइड की जाए तो वो रजिस्टर्ड तो टैक्सेबल हो जाएगा, वो पक्का है. बट अगर वो रजिस्टर्ड बिजनेस होगा तो आरसीएम होगा और अनरजिस्टर्ड बिजनेस होगा तो फॉरवर्ड चार्ज मैकेनिज्म होगा. सो आई थिंक दैट इज वेयर वी हैव मर्ज एंट्री नंबर 6 of exemption notification, entry number 5 and 5A of RCM category. So I think इसी के साथ हमारे चार्जिंग सेक्शन में जो RCM के रिगार्डिंग अमेंडमेंट्स थे वो सारे खत्म होते हैं, क्योंकि RCM के रिगार्डिंग हमने अलग अलग अमेंडमेंट्स कवर अप किए हैं. एक तो 9(4) वाला RCM जो बंद हो गया वो टिल 30 सितंबर 2019 एंड फिर हमने कंपलसरी RCM में भी 3 पॉइंट्स अलग अलग कवर किए. द वन ऑफ द फर्स्ट पॉइंट दैट वी हैव डिस्कस्ड इज विद रिगार्ड टू सर्विसेज ऑफ मेंबर्स ऑफ ओवरसीइंग कमिटी टू RBI. One of the second point that we have discussed with regard to RCM is services of an individual DSA to whom? So individual DSA is providing services to banks and NBFCs, that is also covered by RCM, and the renting of immovable property services provided by government or a local authority to a registered business entity is also covered under RCM. That is specific entry number 5A of the same notification. So I think everybody understands that how the RCM provisions will be applicable and with all the amendments. Let us move towards the other category amendments, friends. Now friends, just to complete the charging section regarding amendments, I think what we need to only cover up is just to revise the rates of the composition scheme, which is covered by section 10. I think everyone is aware that threshold limit of composition scheme has continuously changed. I think earlier the scheme limit was 50 lakh. your previous year turnover is not exceeding 50 lakh, and later on that limit has been increased to 75 lakh, and at a later stage the limit has increased to 100 lakhs. So as of now the limit for the composition scheme is 100 lakh, but as we understand that in some specified state it is not 100 lakh, rather it is 75 lakhs. So which are those states which are following 75 lakhs? Just keep this in mind, friends. There are 7 northeastern states to be very precise, plus they consider Sikkim as 8th one. So 8 northeastern states, so 7 sisters is what we say, plus 8th is Sikkim. So 8 states, of which category I am saying? Northeastern. Plus we have in Himachal Pradesh, which is a 9th one, where they are following this limit of 75 lakhs. All other states, including Jammu and Kashmir, including Uttarakhand, all of them are following 100 lakhs. So keep this in mind. I am talking about the limits in terms of turnover. So turnover के limit की हम जब भी बात करें, तो there is 75 lakh limit and there is 100 lakh limit. So which states are following 75 lakh, which states are following 100 lakh? So that is where we are talking about this particular category. So we are very clear that we are talking about northeastern states like Arunachal Pradesh, Assam, Manipur, Meghalaya, Nagaland, Mizoram, Sikkim, Tripura. So they are the 8 states, and the 9th one is Himachal Pradesh. So they are the states which are following 75 lakh limits, and we always consider J&K and Uttarakhand is following 100 lakh limit. So always keep this in mind that the turnovers for composition scheme is 100 lakh and 75 lakh. In fact, recently I think that has been changed to 150 lakh, but that is applicable purely in case of service providers. Purely for November 2000, sorry, not service providers, it's purely for November 2019. It is not applicable for May 2019. So my friends of May 2019 should not at all think of 150 lakhs limit. It is only 100 lakh. Keep this in mind, that limit has been increased from 1st February 2019, and since it is from 1st February 2019, it is not at all to be considered for May 2019 exam. So this is in terms of limit. And one more parallel point that we always consider is at what rate the taxpayer should pay tax when they are under composition scheme, or at what rate they should pay the amount in lieu of the taxes. So the revised rates are very clear that a manufacturer should pay at what rate? A service provider, I would say not service provider, but one service provider like food and beverage service providers and other registered suppliers like traders, at what rate they should pay it. So for manufacturer, the original rate was 2% of aggregate turnover, while this says it should be 1%. So 0.5% under CGST Act and 0.5% under SGST Act. So 1% rate for manufacturers of the turnover. Second one, where we say that when we talk about food and beverage service providers, not the other service providers, the rate is 2.5 under for the purpose of for the purpose of CGST Act, and 2.5 for the purpose of SGST Act. So it should be 5% for food and beverage service providers for the turnover, excluding exempt turnover. I think सबको वो clear point बहुत clear है कि अक्टूबर 2017 में ही गवर्नमेंट ने ये बोल दिया था कि फूड एंड बेवरेज सर्विस प्रोवाइडर्स को एग्जम्प्ट टर्नओवर के ऊपर टैक्स भरने की ज़रूरत नहीं है. सो दे पे 5% ऑफ द टर्नओवर एक्सक्लूडिंग एग्जम्प्ट टर्नओवर. एंड द लास्ट वन वेयर वी टॉक अबाउट द ट्रेडर्स, they have to pay, they were also earlier also paying 1%. So manufacturer was earlier 2% and has been brought down to 1. Food and beverages were earlier 5% and now also 1. Traders are also same. They were earlier 5% and now they are, they were earlier 1% and now also they are 1%. But the important aspect is traders were earlier 1% of the total turnover. Now traders are 1% of the only taxable turnover, not of the total turnover. So basically traders are not supposed to pay on exempt turnover. See, manufacturers are also paying 1%, traders are also paying 1%. The only difference is manufacturers are paying 1% of the total turnover including exempt turnover, while traders are paying 1% of the only taxable turnover, not exempt turnover. And in case of food and beverage service providers, they are paying 5%, but 5% of total turnover excluding exempt turnover. So ultimately matter उनका भी same हो जाएगा. So ये ऐसे दो लोग हैं जो taxable turnover का टैक्स भरेंगे, और ये manufacturer एक ऐसा है जो उसको total turnover का टैक्स भरना पड़ेगा. So I think these are only 2 points which has to be kept in mind with regard to composition scheme. बाकी सारे पॉइंट्स हम लोग ऑलरेडी कंपोजिशन स्कीम के मेन प्रोविजन में पढ़ चुके हैं, इनफैक्ट ये भी पढ़ लिया है, बट जस्ट एज अ मैटर ऑफ क्लैरिटी, बिकॉज आप एग्जाम में जा रहे हो और आपके लिए रेलेवेंट है, इसीलिए खाली क्लैरिफिकेशन दिया। इनफैक्ट इसमें कोई अमेंडमेंट नहीं है, बट आपकी एग्जाम के लिए इफेक्टिव रेट्स क्या होंगे वो आपके ध्यान में होना चाहिए। सो आई थिंक एवरीबडी इज क्लियर विथ रिगार्ड टू व्हाट वी कॉल्ड एज कंपोजिशन scheme. And with this we are done with the charging section amendments. Let us move towards one more chapter amendment, let us say exemption chapter. Yes friends, let us talk about the exemptions amendments with regard to exemption chapter. One of the first point where we have certain amendments is one of the first category where we have certain amendments is agriculture sector. So we have lots and lots of amendments under the agriculture sectors. To be precise, there are 3 entries which has been introduced, which are called newly introduced entries. So let us try and understand that. One of the first entry is with regard to entry 24A, which relates to warehouses. So it says that services provided by way of warehousing the minor forest produce are eligible for exemption. Now one of the first concern is basically this is nothing but a warehousing services. So like agriculture produce को अगर हम warehousing services दे रहे हैं, so obviously our services are eligible for exemption. There is a specific entry created for that. So now they say even minor forest produce को अगर हम warehousing facilities provide कर रहे हैं, तो that is also eligible for exemption. So when I say minor forest produce, so what can be considered under the category of minor forest produce? So there can be probably, you may consider tree moss, or you may consider tamarind, or products like bamboo. Basically they are called minor forest produce. So if you provide services of warehousing to such goods, such produce, then it is as good as you are providing services to an agriculture sector, and accordingly government is granting exemption on that. Similar way, there is one more exemption again under agriculture sector and again related to the warehousing, that is which very clearly says services by way of fumigation in a warehouse of agriculture produce. So when I say services by way of fumigation, it is nothing but a kind of pest control. So जो warehouses है, जो specifically agriculture के regarding warehouses है, उसको अगर हम पेस्ट कंट्रोल रिलेटेड सर्विसेज दे रहे, इज व्हाट दे कॉल्ड एज फर्मिंगेशन सर्विसेज, एंड अकॉर्डिंगली इट इज एलिजिबल फॉर एग्जम्पशन व्हिच इज कवर्ड बाय एंट्री 53A. सो वी हैव डिस्कस्ड एंट्री 24A, we have also discussed entry 53A. Both relates to basically agriculture only, and to be very precise, warehousing of agriculture produce only. So this is where we talk about 2 exemptions. Moving ahead with that, there is one more exemption, there is one more entry which has been added, and that is entry 55A, which relates to artificial insemination of livestock. So I believe everybody understands that this is artificial insemination relates to breeding activity. To be precise, I think they inject the sperm and other thing of a male livestock into a female livestock using injections and syringes and other thing, which is very clearly considered as an artificial insemination of livestock to get probably the best breed. So maybe they find a male and female of the best available breeds, and then they use the sperm and they inject that into the female using some injections and other artificial methods. So it is what is called as services of artificial insemination of livestock. And to be very clearly other than the horse, because in case of horse this work can be done, even then that work is done with an objective of horse race and other activity rather than the agricultural reason. So the insemination will not be done with the intention to get the livestock and use that for food or fiber or such other reason. Rather, horse breeding is done only with an intention of horse race, so that is not eligible for exemption. Other than that, all other livestock of which if artificial insemination activity will be done, so whosoever is providing services with regard to that, it is straight away eligible for exemption under entry number 55A. So I think everyone is clear with regard to agriculture based amendments or agriculture sector related exemptions. Over and above that, I think there were clarifications which was brought in the year 2017 very clearly that paddy based activities should be considered as exempt, rice based activities should not be considered as exempt. Same way, when I use the word as the sugar cane which we have, which later on gets converted into jaggery, so jaggery is obviously considered as a fully produced goods rather than considering that as an agriculture products. Same way, tea and coffee based agar activities ki hum baat kare, so there is a very clear point which was brought in at a later stage which says that plucking of tea and coffee leaves, and if you receive services with regard to that, then it can be considered as an agriculture related process. But when you blend that and convert that into a blended tea or coffee, then in that case it won't fall under the agriculture category. So for that, any services that you receive is not eligible for exemption. So we have tea and coffee point, we also have a jaggery point, we also consider pulses under that category, paddy to rice. All these circulars or clarifications have been already brought in the year 2017, so they are not so important for May 2019 exam. So I'm not considering that beyond the limit, but just keep this in mind that these were the small changes, that the exemption should be granted only if it is related to agriculture produce. If it is related to processed goods like jaggery, or it is related to blended tea or coffee, or it is related to rice, then the exemption should not be granted. So I think everyone is clear with the agriculture based exemptions. Let us move towards the other category exemptions, friends. Yes, friends, now let us look at the amendments with regard to education services and exemption based on that. So it is education based amendments. Now basically 2-3 entries have been either added or have been modified. Like if you guys remember entry 6, where they were talking about the education based exemption or services provided by an educational institute were exempt. So original provision was very clear, entry 66A, which was very clearly saying that services provided by an educational institute to its students, faculty and staff is always eligible for exemption. So when an educational institute provides education services to students, obviously that is exempt. Along with that, it provides accommodation, it provides boarding lodging is what we say under accommodation only, pick up and drop in, so like transport facility to students, all of them are eligible for exemption. Same way, the services provided to staff and to faculty members are also eligible for exemption. That is entry 66A. But you know, a lot of educational institute conducts entrance exam. Now for that, they charge fees from the respective students. So that is where problem starts. Because when I say a lot of educational institute conducts an entrance exam for which they charge the fees, so they don't charge it from the students, rather they charge it from the prospective students. So when a particular prospective student pays the fees and gives the exam, he cannot be called a student. So you can't say that it is a services provided by an educational institute to student, because he is not a student as of now when he is paying all these charges. So that means this becomes taxable. So this should not happen. That is where entry number 66AA comes in, which very clearly says that services provided by an educational institute by way of conducting an entrance examination against consideration in form of entrance fee, then that is not eligible for, that is not liable for GST, rather that is also eligible for exemption. So any educational institute which is covered under this category, everybody understands which kind of institutes are called educational institutes. So any educational institute which is covered under this category is specifically talking about this provision, that if they provide services to its students or to its faculty or to its staff, that is eligible for exemption, entry 66A. But AA says to a prospective students, if they charge fees by way of entrance exam in form of entrance fees, then that is also eligible for exemption. So that is one of the first entry. Moving ahead with that, there is further criteria created which says where we talk about services provided to an educational institute. So we are talking about B entry, where the exemption is not to the educational institute, but exemption is to those entities who are providing services to an educational institute. So there are entities who are providing services to an educational institute for which an exemption is provided under entry 66B. So when we talk about them, there is 5th number entry which says supply of online educational journals and periodicals. So let us say an educational institute outsource the work, let's say some university, some Gujarat University or any college of Gujarat University, outsource the work to a third party that you provide us an online materials. So online educational journals and online periodicals you provide to us. So when that third party is providing online educational journals and periodicals to an educational institute, then whether that is eligible for exemption or not. So that is where this particular fifth entry comes in, which says services provided to an educational institute by way of supply of online educational journals and online educational periodicals are always eligible for exemption. But very, very important point, friends. Very, very important point. Always keep this in mind, that what do we mean by the educational institute over here? So that is where this clarification, this proviso comes in, which very clearly says that the online periodicals and online journals provided to an educational institute would mean an educational institute other than the schools and the institutions which are providing vocational courses. मैं वापस बोल रहा हूँ. When I say online periodicals and online journals provided to an educational institute, whereby the term educational institute would mean an educational institute other than the schools, this one, schools, and the vocational institutes, so institutions offering vocational courses. So someone would ask, then which kind of institutions would actually be eligible for exemption? Then any educational institute which is offering a qualification which is recognized by law in India will only be covered under this category. वापस बोल रहा हूँ. So ultimately exemption किसको मिलेगा? तो कि online journals and periodicals की जो services कोई provide कर रहा है, किसको provide कर रहा है? Educational institute को. The term educational institute will only cover those institutions which are providing courses or which are providing qualifications which is recognized by law in India. So basically provided to colleges, I think, is eligible for exemption, but same services provided to schools is liable for GST, and same services provided to the institutions offering vocational courses are also liable for GST. So I think everybody understands जो main दो entry add हुई है, one is 66A and another is 66B में 5th number का entry, ये दोनों के लिए exemptions की हम लोगों ने बात की है. Now, there is one more clarification which is brought under these educational point, and that is with regard to ITIs. So I think ITIs are the authorities, I mean, are offering the vocational courses which are recognized or are unrecognized also in many cases. So these ITI courses, whether are eligible for exemption or not, which are offered by the ITIs, and more important, services provided to ITIs with regard to same, whether that is also eligible for exemption or not. So that is where we talk about that, are we referring to a government IT or a ITI or a private ITI? Let us say we are referring to a private ITI. So when I say private ITIs, they are offering courses which are called as vocational courses. But there can be two kind of vocational courses. One, which is what we considered as the notified courses. So when I say notified courses, they are legally called as designated courses and designated trades ke regarding courses hai. So if private ITIs are offering which are courses which are designated trade-based courses, then in that case they are eligible for exemptions, while private ITIs are offering certain courses which are not related to the designated trades, then their services are always taxable. So this is very, very important. So one particular course that we are talking about is basically related to designated trade or not is very, very important. When I say it is related to designated trade, then the courses offered by private ITIs are called as recognized vocational courses and for which exemption can be granted. So I mean, let us say plumbing work सिखाते होंगे या sewing machine कैसे चलाना सिखाते होंगे, ये ऐसे courses है जो designated trade based courses है, और उसके लिए अगर private ITI अपने तरफ से education services provide कर रहा है तो it is always eligible for exemption. In fact, why only that? अगर वो कोर्स एग्जाम्प्ट है तो उसकी एंट्रेंस एग्जाम के लिए भी अगर ITI कुछ चार्ज कर रहा है तो दैट इज ऑल्सो एलिजिबल फॉर एग्जाम्शन. बट व्हेन आई से कि ITI इज ऑल्सो ऑफरिंग अदर देन डेजिग्नेटेड ट्रेड कोर्सेज, सो इन दैट केस जो भी कोर्सेज की फीस ITI चार्ज कर रहा है, प्राइवेट ITI चार्ज कर रहा है, तो उसके लिए ऑलवेज GST लगेगा, और उसके एंट्रेंस एग्जाम कंडक्ट करे तो उसके लिए भी GST चार्ज होगा, बिकॉज द कोर्सेज आर नॉट कंसिडर्ड एज रिकॉग्नाइज्ड वोकेशनल कोर्सेज फॉर विच एग्जम्पशन इज ग्रांटेड. Now this is where we have talked about private ITIs. Now on a secondary base we talk about government ITIs. So when I say government ITIs, then very precisely their services are always eligible for exemption. कोई बोले वाई गवर्नमेंट ITIs की सर्विसेज ऑलवेज एग्जम्प्ट रहेगी, तो कि एक्चुअली गवर्नमेंट ITI कोई भी कोर्स ऑफर करे, वेदर इट इज डेजिग्नेटेड ट्रेड बेस्ड कोर्स और अदर देन डेजिग्नेटेड ट्रेड बेस्ड कोर्स, अगर गवर्नमेंट ITI है तो इट इज कंसिडर्ड एज सर्विसेज प्रोवाइडेड बाय गवर्नमेंट, और सर्विसेज प्रोवाइडेड बाय गवर्नमेंट इज ऑलरेडी एग्जम्प्ट अंडर एंट्री 6 ऑफ एग्जम्पशन नोटिफिकेशन. सो हमें यहाँ पे एग्जम्पशन की कोई ज़रूरत नहीं है. हम लोग तो अभी बात कर रहे हैं एंट्री नंबर 66 के एग्जम्पशन की, जबकि जो गवर्नमेंट के कोर्सेज है, गवर्नमेंट की ITI है, वो जो कोर्सेज ऑफर कर रही है वो बहुत क्लियर है कि इट इज़ कोर्सेज ऑफर्ड बाय गवर्नमेंट फॉर विच एग्जम्पशन इज ऑलरेडी अवेलेबल इन एंट्री नंबर 6. सो एंट्री नंबर 66 तक जाने की ज़रूरत नहीं है, एंट्री नंबर 6 में ही स्ट्रेट अवे उसका एग्जम्पशन अवेलेबल है. सो आई थिंक एवरीबडी अंडरस्टैंड कि एंट्री नंबर 6 में आपको कहाँ पे एग्जम्पशन मिलेगा और क्या बेनिफिट मिलेगा. सो गवर्नमेंट ITI के कोर्सेज कोई बोले 6 में एग्जम्प्ट है, यस 66 में एग्जम्प्ट है, इनफैक्ट यस 66 में भी उसको एग्जम्पशन मिल जाएगा, बट 66 में खाली डेजिग्नेटेड ट्रेड के कारण जो कोर्सेज है उसी को एग्जम्पशन मिलेगा, अदर देन डेजिग्नेटेड ट्रेड के कोर्सेज है उसको एग्जम्पशन नहीं मिलेगा. बट एंट्री 6 फुल फ्लेज प्रोवाइड एग्जम्पशन विद ऑल द गवर्नमेंट ITI कोर्सेज. तो इन दैट केस हमें गवर्नमेंट ITI के केस में फुल एग्जम्पशन मिलेगा, जबकि डेजिग्नेटेड प्राइवेट ITI के केस में डेजिग्नेटेड ट्रेड के कारण एग्जम्पशन मिलेगा, डेजिग्नेटेड ट्रेड ओरिएंटेड कोर्सेज को एग्जम्पशन मिलेगा, अदर देन डेजिग्नेटेड ट्रेड ओरिएंटेड कोर्सेज के लिए एग्जम्पशन अवेलेबल नहीं होगा. So I think everybody understands the exemptions that we are referring with regard to education sector. सो ये एजुकेशन सेक्टर के एग्जम्पशन है, उसके अलावा भी अलग अलग सेक्टर में बहुत सारे एग्जम्पशंस हैं. सो लेट अस ट्राई एंड टॉक अबाउट देम वन बाय वन. Friends, there is a small amendment brought under the healthcare sector, to be precisely not even an amendment, just a clarification to overcome a lot of disputes. So a small clarification has been brought under healthcare sector, and even merging healthcare sector with the services covered under or functions covered under Article 243W and 243G of Constitution of India. So technically there is a separate exemption entry for Article 243W and 243G, where we talk about entry number 4 and 5 of exemption notification, and there is a separate entry for healthcare sector where we talk about entry number 73 and 74 with regard to healthcare exemptions. So we are merging all of them to get the idea of this. एक बार बता देता हूँ कौन से entries को हम combine करेंगे. Entry number 73-74, which is with regard to healthcare exemptions. Entry number 4 and 5 with regard to Article 243W and 243G based exemption, and even entry number 3 and 3A, where an individual provides, where an third party provides services to government or municipal corporation with regard to Article 243W and 243G. So 4 and 5 talks about 243W and 243G based services provided by government or a local authority, and 3 and 3A talks about services provided to government or a local authority with regard to the functions covered under Article 243W and 243G, and entry number 73-74 talks about healthcare services based exemptions. So we merge everything and we'll try and discuss this. Basically it is services with regard to ambulance. So ambulance की जो services है, whether that is eligible for exemption or not. Then if you refer healthcare sector exemption, very clearly entry number 74 says the healthcare services provided by the hospitals or clinical establishments or such other entities are eligible for exemption, and not only healthcare services but allied services to support that, which includes the ambulance services and which also includes the paramedic services. All of them are eligible for exemption. So practically speaking, when healthcare services are provided, then it is eligible for exemption. Now the important perspective is when healthcare services are provided, whether it is provided by government or is provided by the private people, like private hospitals are also providing ambulance. Then there are so many charitable trusts which are also running the ambulance services, and even the government is also running the ambulance services in form of 108 जो ambulance है या general ambulance जो 102 वाला है. So ये सारी ambulance के regarding services है. Now the important perspective is when I say government जो 102 या 108 based ambulance services provide कर रहा है वो तो free of cost है, तो सामने कोई consideration charge नहीं किया जा रहा है, तो it is straight away eligible for exemption. सेम वे जो प्राइवेट चैरिटेबल ट्रस्ट है जो एम्बुलेंस की सर्विसेज प्रोवाइड कर रहे हैं वो भी एलिजिबल फॉर एग्जम्पशन है, बिकॉज इट इज अगेन द सेम कंसेप्ट दैट प्राइवेट चैरिटेबल ट्रस्ट आर डूइंग इट फॉर द व्हाट वी से एज चैरिटेबल रीजंस, सो दे डोंट चार्ज अ कंसिडरेशन, सो देयर इज नो क्वेश्चन ऑफ कंसिडरिंग दैट एज सप्लाई, और उसके ऊपर कभी जीएसटी चार्ज नहीं होगा। जो प्राइवेट हॉस्पिटल्स के एम्बुलेंस है या गवर्नमेंट हॉस्पिटल के जो भी एम्बुलेंस है, शायद मान लो कि उनके प्राइवेट हॉस्पिटल्स है तो फ्री तो होगा नहीं, बट क्या होगा कि टोटल आपका जो हेल्थ केयर का बिल आएगा उसके अंदर एम्बुलेंस के चार्जेस भी कवर हो जाएंगे। बट अगेन द कंसेप्ट इज वेरी क्लियर कि हेल्थ केयर सर्विसेज आर स्ट्रेट अवे एलिजिबल फॉर एग्जम्पशन, तो उसके ऊपर कहीं पे भी जीएसटी चार्ज नहीं होना चाहिए, सो एम्बुलेंस की सर्विसेज भी फ्री हो गई। नाउ कम्स अ सब्सिक्वेंट पोर्शन, लाइक सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट ने बहुत सारे स्टेट गवर्नमेंट को सपोर्ट किया हुआ है कि आप हेल्थ केयर सर्विसेज के लिए एम्बुलेंस मैनेज करो, आपको पूरा फाइनेंशियल सपोर्ट और सारा बैकग्राउंड सपोर्ट सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट के तरफ से दिया जाएगा। सो एक्चुअली स्पीकिंग दिस 108 सर्विसेज विच आर रन बाय एक्चुअली रिस्पेक्टिव स्टेट्स where entire funding comes from central government, so entire support comes from central government, but yes, the activity is conducted by state governments. Now there are two type of states. There are few states where they themselves are managing these ambulances, and then there are certain states who have outsourced this work. So that is where the role of PSP starts. So they are called as private service providers who have been actually hired by whom? By state government to provide ambulance services. So government itself is not providing services, but on behalf of government, private service providers are providing services. So private service providers are actually running the ambulances. But now see, if government is providing it, it can be free of cost. If private service providers are providing, whether it will be free of cost? So someone would say, sir, general public के लिए तो free of cost ही होगा. Actually 108 और 102 general public के लिए तो free of cost ही होता है. But for government it is not free of cost. Meaning thereby, actually speaking, these PSPs are providing services to government and they are charging consideration from government. And the beneficiaries are public like us are actually enjoying this facility free of cost. So PSPs are providing services to government where beneficiaries is a general public. And PSPs are charging consideration from the government for that. So that is where it falls under the definition of supply. Then whether that supply is liable for GST or that supply is also eligible for exemption. Now one argument can be that this is okay provided to government and against consideration, but ultimately तो ambulance की services ही है, तो ambulance की service तो exempt ही होनी चाहिए under entry number 74 of healthcare category. But point of view is that you are not charging it from beneficiary, so you are not charging it from the patient. So whether it should be considered as a part of the healthcare services, because it is under a contract that you are providing services to government and government is giving you a consideration. So there can be an argument that whether it is eligible for exemption under healthcare services or not. So that is where this clarification has been brought, that forget about the healthcare exemption, this is actually eligible for exemption under entry number 3 or 3A. Someone would say why entry 3A or 3A? So actually speaking, ये जो healthcare के लिए government का responsibility होता है कि वो I mean like ambulances manage करे. It is actually a function entrusted to government and local authorities under Article 243 and 243 W and 243G, that it is required to provide the medical services in the respective district or respective state or respective village. And when government considering that is arranging ambulances, hiring public service providers, so what will happen is जो government है वो तो actually free of cost दे रहा है, उसके लिए तो कोई charges नहीं ले रहा है, but so there is no question of charging GST on that perspective, but the important part is जो private players है जो government से charges ले रहे हैं उसके लिए exemption मिलेगा कि नहीं मिलेगा, तो कि entry number 3 के अंदर ये पूरी चीज़ exempt हो जाएगी. क्यों? तो कि it's private service providers are providing services to government or local authority in relation to a function entrusted to government or a local authority under Article 243W or 243G. And since it is in relation to a function entrusted under Article 243W or 243G, entry number 3 के अंदर ये exemption में चला जाएगा, provided it's a pure services. And if it is a combined contract of material and services, तो entry number 3A में चला जाएगा, ये चीज़ exempt होगा, provided the value of the material in the entire contract is not exceeding 25% of the contract value. So service component is more than 75% and material component is not more than 25%. Goods component is not more than 25%. Then entry number 3A में वो चीज़ exempt हो जाएगी. और अगर मान लो कि only services है तो entry number 3 में वो चीज़ exempt हो जाएगी. So ultimately जो private service providers है जो government को ambulance services देते हैं and consideration receive करते हैं, that is eligible for exemption. A small clarification has been brought on 31st July 2017 via circular number 51/25/2018. So I think everybody understands the exemption with regard to ambulance. I think that is the only point which is to be considered as a new point under healthcare services. बाकी के सारे points हम लोग already cover कर चुके हैं friends.